I know I've been off camera for a little while, and that's because I've been very sick, similar to, well, the DCU. And just like the DCU, I'm feeling like we might be back. You know, over the last 2 weeks, I haven't really had a voice, I've been running a little bit of fever, a bunch of really bad stuff. Kind of like how the DCU, for the last 10 years, has been nothing but utter shit, as it has been constantly shoving itself down the gutter with some of the worst and poor adaptations of comic book characters. And today I'm finally feeling good enough to record, and I just saw Superman. And I have to say, it looks like Warner Bros. Might also be feeling a little bit better. Their pockets will probably be feeling a little bit heavier, because in all honesty, this movie is fantastic. I am going to admit, straight off the bat, I have not seen any other Superman movie aside from Man of Steel. Yes, I'm an uncultured swine who doesn't watch enough movies, I know, and I need to correct that. So I'm not comparing it to any other Superman movie other than itself. So I guess the easiest thing to kick off with is just talking about the cast real quick, and the cast is phenomenal. David Cornsweet, the person playing Lois Lane, Nicholas Hoult, everybody is well cast. All the characters feel well done, and you really get the feel for their characters from very short lines, because a lot of these characters only have a few lines, and they do a very good job of delivering them. As for actors, I can't really think of anyone who I thought was particularly weak. I guess the engineer could have been better. She was kind of lacking, but that's because she really didn't have a character other than Machine Lady Soldier. That was basically who she was. It was all very well done, and the characters were all very well performed and very well realized. And let's be honest, the costumes, despite looking atrocious in the trailers, look really good on screen. In fact, that might be the most important through line of this review. The trailers are so god-awful that every single scene that they showed is so thoroughly out of context, you're going to miss exactly why the scene is a fantastic one. All of the good stuff is hidden in the actual movie, leading you to have absolutely no faith in the trailers. You know all those scenes about Superman getting the shit kicked out of him being harangued by Krypto? That's all in the first act. That's literally in the first 10 minutes. And I will be honest, when I went to see this movie, I was expecting it to be a very bad movie. I was expecting it to be poorly received, and I was expecting to walk out of it very disappointed. And I had that negative preconception for about 10 minutes. And then when the movie finally actually kicked itself into gear, I'm like, oh shit, I was wrong. This movie is not boring, it is not bland, it is not ugly, and the story and the character is really there. Now, there are some issues, some spoiler-free issues too. So for the spoiler-free issues, there's just some minor pacing. The movie is constantly moving. But it's also worth remembering that this movie takes place over the course of 3 days, 3 years after Superman's been established. So he's fully established. Metahumans, aliens, they're all over the place. We know they exist. They are in this world. And we're told that through an opening crawl. Now, I don't like the fact it's the opening crawl, but whatever. We also learn that Superman has been undefeated in his entire time. 3 minutes ago, as of the beginning of the movie, is the first time Superman was ever defeated. And that's all not shown. We're told that happens. And then we're also told that the reason Superman is in a bit of a hot mess right now is because he actually intervened in a war in some undisclosed region of the world, possibly Eastern Europe. Some people are drawing comparisons to Russia and Ukraine or to the Middle East and Israel. It's not there. None of that's there. None of that's drawn on it. No one looks particularly Jewish or anything like that. There's none of that modern politics in it. This movie is politics free. They only think it's the same thing because the people are brown. And we get told all that off screen. So then it immediately hits in with Superman crashing into the Antarctic and calling for Krypto, which then he's taken back to the Fortress of Solitude, is healed. And we've all seen that scene because that was in the trailer. That scene wasn't great. But then about 10 minutes into it is when it really starts to pick up. When he gets back into the action, when he's fighting, when we're actually seeing him work. And that's when we first get to see Lex Luthor working. They have no pretense of Lex Luthor being a good guy, and I'm so glad they didn't bother with it. Lex Luthor is a genius who's working this machine, fighting against Superman, working Ultraman, who's giving numerical inputs for what move. And he's telling this robot how to fight, and he's kicking Superman's ass. It's fantastic. Every single bit of the story that ends up flowing through it actually feels like it does generally belong in the movie. Nothing feels forced, nothing feels rushed in my opinion. I think they do a very good job of balancing the fast paces and the slow paces. They do a very good job balancing it all. One of the issues with the trailers, though, is they make everybody look really angry all the time. This Superman's dour and depressed, and the world hates him. And Nicholas Hoult is screaming with his face turning red and tears streaming down his face. That's such a mischaracterization. This movie mischaracterized the film entirely. All it showed you were opening scenes and ending scenes, and very little of the connective tissue, when the connective tissue is what really made this movie work. Lois and Clark's relationship is new, it's fresh, and you get that feeling they've only been dating for 3 months, and it really is working out in a weird way. As they try to mix the Superman and Lois as a journalist, they try to bring that aspect into their relationship, and that doesn't really work out too well. And there's a lot of time to breathe between those characters. The people only hate Superman because a message is sent out there that makes him look like a conqueror instead of a savior. And then, of course, there's the fact that the movie, on the surface, and especially from the trailers, looked overpacked. This movie looks busy as all hell. It looks like you're not going to be given any time to breathe, and no one's going to get any character development. Well, somehow, in my opinion, they balance it really well. When looking at the different characters throughout, Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific, Lois, Jimmy, Perry White, all of these people, they don't distract from Superman, as I feel. Now, I watched a few other reviews, and most people are saying that they feel like it detracted from Superman. That Superman was just window dressing and everything happened to him. And I feel the opposite way around. I feel like the other characters were actually just minor support characters who were there because they would happen to be there, instead of being there for any narrative purpose. And I can't believe I'm saying this. I actively hate the fact that I'm saying this, but this movie made Mr. Terrific not suck. Mr. Terrific is one of the lamest superheroes, and always has been, especially with the roles that they've given him in modern media, such as putting him in the CW as some random twink, and putting him in the Injustice movie to replace the Flash. I hate Mr. Terrific, and this movie, well, I didn't hate him. His T-spheres are still stupid as all hell, and he's a kind of dumb character, but he works really well for this movie, and he has a really nice action sequence that, sure, you could have cut it. The movie would have been all the same if you cut it, but I think it works well enough because it shows Lois Lane reacting to the fight scene. Lois Lane's the centerpiece of the fight, not Mr. T. Now, the only person who really feels wasted is Hawkgirl. She doesn't do anything, but to be fair, she doesn't have to. She's not needed to do anything to make this movie progress at all, so her being there is, while a little underwhelming, isn't too depressing. But she kind of comes off as a zoomer bitch, which is shocking that she's supposed to be in a monogamous relationship with Hawkman. No guy would want to marry that. Now, this movie isn't perfect. I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying it's a pretty good movie. It has some issues, such as Krypto. Yes, the women, the children, and a lot of the normies are gonna love Krypto. He's fun, he's cute, he's difficult to work with, and he causes problems in an adorable way. Sure, fine, whatever. He's in it far too much. Now, they explain at the end of the movie the reason Krypto's here as much as he is because Supergirl came to Earth, gave Superman Krypto, and then went off to space to party. Or at least that's how it sounds like they're explaining it in the end of the movie. Like the very last scene of the movie is explaining that. So that's why he's poorly behaved and whatnot. But they use Krypto in a typical James Gunn humor fashion as a way to detract from a lot of the serious scenes. In one of the core ones, at the climax of the movie, as Superman is finally getting to Lex Luthor. And Lex Luthor has this amazing monologue, and then Krypto interrupts it, and it's basically the Owlbear scene from Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, but it doesn't work because it's actually during Lex Luthor's big speech, and they interrupt it for a joke, and I hated that. There are a few other things. This stupid obsession with social media, it works in most of the scenes, but there are a few times where they show, say, late night talk shows. I could have done without that. Thankfully, I don't think there are any real late night talk shows, so that gets rid of some of the cringe factor, but like shoving Peacemaker into a random cameo on a late night talk show, he doesn't have to be there. I don't need him there, and it was a waste of time to put him there. Having a street interviewer talk to Sean Gunn, because of course he has to be in this movie, because James Gunn is a big fan of nepotism. So he has to be in this movie, and he has a single throwaway line: I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican, everybody hates Lex Luthor. I'm like, sure, yeah, whatever. Everybody hates Lex Luthor. You didn't need to say that line. That line is setting up politicization and polarization that isn't in the movie and doesn't have to be there. Now let's get into some spoilers, and I'm going to keep the spoiler section relatively light, and it's really just for some of the issues. Now, a lot of the scenes where we see Superman being really angry really fit the scene. He's being interviewed by Lois Lane in a way that doesn't work, and she's being weirdly hard on him, and he doesn't really understand the dynamic that's going on, so he gets angry, and that's when that scene happens. The scene where Nikola Tesla is screaming is because he's finally been defeated and he can't handle it. His genius and pride is getting the better of him. A lot of the news articles focus on stories like the super shit stuff and immigration stuff. There's absolutely nothing about immigration in this movie whatsoever. Sure, if you really want to push hard and say that when Lex called Superman that's an immigration thing, you can, but you're wrong. You're just objectively wrong. That's not modern politics. There are no girl boss scenes, and there's also no forced diversity, which is actively shocking. Like, I didn't see a single background lesbian kiss, which is the kind of thing that people would love to just shove into these movies for no reason. And you had the super shit hashtag, which sounded really fucking cringe during the leaks, but actually watching the movie, when you see where the super shit hashtag comes from, it kind of is fine. It's literally a throwaway line. Like, as Superman is being escorted to prison, they pass by a row of mutant monkeys, and he mentions that, and you see them typing. It's literally no deeper than that. It's not even a plot point. It's just a small little detail to show you how crazy and how deep into this Lex Luthor is. He's gone all the way. He's pulling all the stops because he thinks he can be Superman, and he comes this close to the point of pushing himself far too far. Now, the final piece, the coup de resistance, the thing that really allows for Lex to tear down Superman, is he finds a recording of Clark's parents, his space parents, where they're telling him why they sent him to Earth. Now, the message is broken. It was broken when the pod landed. Superman had only ever heard half of it, which tells him to be a good man and to serve humanity and save them. Lex recovers the second half of the message using the engineer, and she says that the second half of the message is that it's actually saying that Superman should go full Omni-Man and have a harem of women to pass on his Kryptonian genes and to take over Earth. And the movie never once plays with this possibly being false. They just wave it away as saying it's true. And I have an issue with that, because you don't tell somebody to protect and serve Earth and then tell them to have a ton of sex slaves, as much as that you probably should. But they set that up so they can properly have the whole Superman's really as human as they come. He is the definitive human being. Which, sure, is a great message, and that's the core of Superman. Superman, despite being an alien, is the most human person in the world. That's his whole thing. Could have gone with it a little bit better, but I loved the way they did it either way. Ma and Pa Kent feel a little dim-witted in this movie, I'll admit, but they are more like simple rubes than idiots. They're just people who live the simple life and were probably good parents, and that's how it's set up, and that's how it's shown. The only other major issue I had for this movie, which is a relatively minor one, and this could have just been the Regal I was in the specific theater, the sound was terrible. The sound mixing was not good. It was so loud in a lot of places, and not a whole lot of places where it was too quiet. Just everything was just a little too loud. It was really annoying. Like footsteps having a little bit too much impact and whatnot. That kind of thing. But all in all, I was sitting there, I'm like, I can't believe he's done it. James Gunn made a movie worth watching, and I'm legitimately shocked by the fact that I felt like everything fit just right. Nobody felt forced in there, nothing felt arbitrary, nothing felt unnecessary. It all felt like it belonged in the movie. It all felt very comic booky. Now, of course, this scene right here that we just played where Superman gets in the back of the head of the can and he flinches, I hate the fact that they took the flinching out of the movie. That should have stayed, because it's showing how emotionally impacted, not physically impacted Superman is. Because basically, how that scene plays out, how everybody turns to hate him, is Lex Luthor publishes the second half of the message, setting up as Superman knew that was his directive, which causes like the hashtag super harem to go everywhere, which is a great hashtag. I'd love if someone said that about me. And so people are on the spot feeling betrayed. It's literally a single moment. And this news literally comes out as soon as they finish saving everybody. Another thing I forgot to mention that I actually loved about this movie and about Superman specifically was Superman explicitly has concern for damage. He's making sure nobody and nothing gets injured. There are scenes where he, to the detriment of himself, saves a dog and a squirrel. He literally just swoops in and rescues a squirrel right as it's about to be crushed. Doesn't have to do that. That's a small thing. Just shows you how good of a person Superman is. And then throughout the movie, there's a lot of emphasis on Superman keeping the monsters, keeping the enemies away from buildings. He's actively avoiding damaging stuff. Like when he pushes over this kaiju, and instead of trying to defeat the kaiju, he instead flies over, catches it so it doesn't crush this office building. Not because there are people in there, because he's actively concerned about damage. And then when the Justice guys, or whatever they're called, Guy Gardner, Mr. T, and Hawkgirl, come in to do their shit, they wreck the place, they destroy everything. And Superman specifically harangues them for not having a care in the world about property damage. There's one other flaw that I just now remembered about the movie, and it's a small one. It's style, and it's all because it's fucking James Gunn. It's James Gunn being James Gunn. There's a lot of the mature humor. You know, it's a lot of the Harley Quinn style humor. It's a lot of the has-been hotel type humor. There's a lot of this happening. A lot of people flipping off the camera. There's a scene where Guy Gardner is flipping tanks during the whole war scene. And half of the fist popping were just middle fingers. A lot of people are flipping people off, and there's a lot of use of the word shit in this movie, aside from the super shit hashtag. And I'm like, it just felt a little much for a Superman movie. It just felt like they were being a little too mature for the movie, and it didn't fit, and I thought they needed to change that. But all in all, like, I'm going to give this movie like an 8 out of 10. I was honestly blown away. I was wholly impressed, and I might go see it again and take my dad and my mom to see the movie if they want to go see it. It's because I legitimately enjoy this movie, and I think they will too. So if you have a free weekend and you've got the money to spare on a ticket, or you have Regal Unlimited or something similar, you 100% should go see this movie, because this is far better than Man of Steel, and I can't compare it to other Superman movies, but I can compare it to the recent bunch of hero movies, and those have all sucked. Now, one thing that I am curious about is I honestly think this movie is going to have a positive impact on the box office of Fantastic Four, because this movie really shows you everything a superhero movie should be. It's hopeful, it's happy, it's joyous, it shows the light despite the darkness, it shows the benefits of believing in yourself, believing in those around you, having that support system, and it just screams a great superhero movie. It's no Iron Man or Spider-Man 2, but it's probably the best superhero movie we've got since Endgame. Sorry, since Infinity War, because Endgame was shit. And I really think that this is going to reignite people's hope for the superhero genre, and I do think this is going to lead to more people being open for Fantastic Four. I hate to say it, but after seeing this movie, I'm a little excited for Fantastic Four, because I now have hope that there might be people out there who can make good superhero content. But that's pretty much what I've got. Let me know in the comments, have you guys seen this movie? Do you think it's going to do well? Do you think Fantastic Four has any hope of comparing to this film next week? And I will see you guys on the next one.